How did feudal economies end? Have you ever wondered how societies transitioned from feudal economies to more modern systems? The end of feudal economies was a complex process influenced by various social, economic, and political changes. Feudalism was built on a strict hierarchy where lords owned the land and peasants or serfs worked it. This system relied heavily on the exploitation of the peasantry, leading to a concentration of wealth and power among a small elite. One major factor in the decline of feudal economies was the growth of trade and towns. As trade expanded, towns began to flourish, creating new economic opportunities. Merchants and artisans started to accumulate wealth independently of feudal lords. This emerging middle class challenged the economic dominance of the nobility and weakened the manorial system. Another significant change was the shift from a barter economy to a monetary economy. Peasants began to pay rents or wages instead of providing labor services. This shift gave them more freedom and bargaining power, undermining the feudal obligation system. As peasants gained more autonomy, the traditional feudal relationships began to weaken. The rise of centralized political power also played a crucial role. Monarchies became stronger, reducing the influence of feudal lords. Kings established bureaucracies and standing armies funded by taxes rather than relying on feudal levies. This central authority diminished the local power of lords and their ability to enforce feudal rights. Peasant revolts and social unrest were additional factors that contributed to the decline of feudal economies. Harsh conditions and exploitation led to uprisings that challenged feudal authority. The demographic changes following events like the Black Death increased the bargaining power of peasants, further weakening the feudal labor system. Finally, changes in military technology and organization made the feudal military obligations less relevant. New military technologies and the rise of professional armies meant that monarchs relied more on paid soldiers than on vassals providing military service in exchange for land. From a socialist viewpoint, the end of feudal economies marked the beginning of a transition from direct exploitation of labor through land ownership to more complex economic relations. While this shift did not immediately resolve class exploitation, it paved the way for capitalist modes of production. Socialism critiques feudalism as an early form of class exploitation, where the majority's labor was appropriated by a small elite. The decline of feudalism opened doors for capitalist systems, which continued exploitation but through wage labor and capital accumulation. Understanding how feudal economies ended reveals the historical progression of class relations and exploitation. It highlights the need for systems that prioritize collective ownership and equitable distribution of resources, which socialism advocates. This historical context helps explain why socialism seeks to replace not only feudal exploitation, but also capitalist exploitation with a system based on social ownership and democratic control of the means of production.